Alright, so the goal of this video lesson is to try to understand allergies and what you might be struggling with or others are struggling with, maybe people you know, and this is what we're trying to prevent from developing in your child. So this is a basic report. If you go to the doctors and you get an allergy test, they'll test some different allergens and they will come back with some different scores, and it's hard to understand. And the doctor will give you this and they'll tell you, oh, you're allergic to these foods and these are some of the numbers, and that's that. But it's hard to understand exactly what's going on. And how can you know other things that you're allergic to if this is the only foods that you were tested on? So let's try to understand a little bit more about the data here. So we see IgE, we don't know what that means. We see numbers, foods. I mean, what does any of this mean? Well, let's get into it. So your body creates things called antibodies as an immune defense mechanism. And regarding allergies and the data in the last slide, the IgE here, this is what causes food allergies, symptoms from pollen allergies, and a lot of other allergic diseases, and this is the root cause. So why does your body create these antibodies? And the reason is when you're exposed in any mammal, humans, closely related mammals such as a rabbit, when you're exposed to an allergen, what ends up happening is your body identifies a certain allergen, and the B cells detect that there's some mechanisms that occur where it identifies it as a threat and it creates antibodies against the allergen. And these antibodies are IgE antibodies in the case of an allergy. So what happens is these IgE antibodies bind to mast cells, and they become activated when an allergen, you're exposed to an allergen such as eating, breathing in pollen, and what happens is the allergen gets into your body and it binds to these antibodies, the IgE antibodies on the mast cell, and it activates the cell, essentially releasing chemicals that are inside the cell, and these chemicals are things like histamine. And this causes inflammation and other reaction symptoms that can occur, and people take medications to prevent this, antihistamine medications. You've heard of Claritin, Allegra, all this stuff, and that is to not stop the reaction, but to stop the chemicals that are released from doing harm. But the fundamental reaction is still occurring. Now, let's look into exactly what are these allergens in the foods that you eat. What is being bound to? So let's take a look. So here's an allergen database, and this is your best resource to look at all of the allergens, all the things that you can be allergic to, especially food and pollen related. And what we can do here is we can search for birch pollen. And we see that the first result is, it's called BETV1, and this is the major allergen for birch pollen. And it's through the airway. And we can go take a look at exactly what is this protein. And we can take a look at the structure. And this is what you're allergic to right here. This is called a protein, and every protein has different shapes, but this particular protein looks like this, and this is the thing that binds to your antibodies. Your antibodies are geared towards and geared against this protein, and it releases and it causes an allergic reaction, allergy. We can look at another listing, peanut, for example. We can search peanut. And one of the major allergens in peanut is RH6. And we can take a look at this one. Alright, so this one looks different. But it causes a different type of reaction. We'll get into that later. But it's a different protein, a different allergen, and your body dynamically creates an immune defense against different proteins. So symptom severity with proteins. So the birch pollen that I showed was a PR10. This is heat labile, so it can be destroyed by heat. So for example, in foods, if you are allergic to certain foods that are related to the birch pollen, when these foods are cooked, it can destroy some of these proteins, so your body can't react to anything. It doesn't see anything, because by the time it hits your mouth, those proteins are non-existent in the food. If you were to not cook them, then those proteins would still be in there. That's why with things like oral allergy syndrome and other food allergies, when you cook the food, you're not allergic, but if you eat it raw, then you might have symptoms. But typically, oral allergy syndrome and oral allergies in general are mostly this first few protein types, and the symptom severity is mostly localized to the mouth. Not very severe. Itchy tongue, maybe a swollen throat, itchy throat, and this is because these proteins cause a less severe reaction in the body. But when you look at these heat-stable proteins, storage proteins, and this is the RH6 that we looked at, it's a storage protein, and the symptom severity is much higher. This is anaphylaxis level. People have died from this. The emergency room visits, EpiPen. This is this kind of stuff, the storage proteins, the severity. And you can cook these. It's not going to destroy these proteins, and the symptoms are still going to occur. So that's something to look out for. And if you're allergic to a certain food or a pollen, you're likely to have allergic symptoms from similar proteins. So we can take a look at the sequencing here. We can go back to the birch pollen. Bring that up. And you can go down to the sequence here. And we can copy the sequence. And we can enter it in there. That's what the protein sequence looks like. It's a group of characters. And we can submit that. Alright, that finished loading. So what we look at here is we have a bunch of results, and we have allergens that are similar to the one that we entered, which was birch pollen. And we scroll down here until these are other pollens. So let's go down to some foods here. And we see here Prunus avium, and we see what kind of food that is, and that's a sweet cherry. We look here and we see strawberries, and we go down a little bit more, and here is Malus domestica, which is an apple. So all these different foods are similar to birch pollen, the protein structure of birch pollen. And when we look at a chart like this is typically a chart that you would see if you had oral allergy symptoms to different fruits and vegetables, and you're told that, oh, if you have a birch pollen allergy, look out for apple, cherry, strawberry. The foods that we just saw were related and similar from the calculation, because there are allergens in these different foods that have similar protein structures to the pollens that you are allergic to. So some common questions are, why does the body create these antibodies and form allergic reactions in the first place? Why does this happen? And then, I don't want this to happen for my child, so how do I prevent my child from developing allergies? And that's why I would recommend you head over to generationallergyfree.com. This is a course that me and my twin brother have created, and it will help you prevent allergies for your child. It will help you learn more about your allergies and worldwide health. Head on over here, take a look, and if you like what you see, you can get the course and it'll help you out. So thanks for listening. I hope you learned a lot, and let's do this together. Let's fight this battle together. All right, have a good one.